Hello, everybody, and welcome to Win, the show where we interview champions and trailblazers and ask questions to uncover and discover their championship traits for succeeding in sports, work, and life. Our guest today, Boris Sapone, is a staple in sports and fitness in Las Vegas. Not forts, that would be a totally different world. Boris is the owner and head coach at CrossFit Veni Vidi Vici and is originally from Rome, Italy. And from a young age, Boris always had a passion for helping people. Driven by that passion and his enjoyment for fitness, which he discovered in high school, competing in football, wrestling, soccer, and track, Boris chose to become a personal trainer in 2007. And his journey started in local parks and recreation facilities prior to growing it into the extremely well-established business that it is today. In addition to his standard offerings, Boris is also established fitness programs for kids with special needs, designed strength and conditioning programs for local dance studios, and has hosted fitness and team building workouts with businesses throughout the Las Vegas Valley. He has also trained former Miss Nevadas and local law enforcement. And to top it all off, if this all wasn't enough for you, he's also the strength and conditioning coach with the Cirque du Soleil. Boris holds a bachelor's degree in health science and kinesiology from UNLV and literally has too many certifications for me to mention here. You can go to his website to see them. I'm not kidding. Boris, I'm really excited to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on, for sure.
Thanks for coming on, Coach.
No, this is going to be a good one. One thing I love about our show is this show has NHL athletes. We had a trapeze artist on last week. Boris, you fit the mold, and that's the whole point, right? About cool. It's not just about championship moments. It's about everything leading up to it. So, Boris, again, you have a unique background that brought you to where you are now as the owner of a distinct physical training center. Why don't you take us through the journey of, again, why you chose this career field? We talked a little bit about it in the open, but I want the people to hear it from you.
So it's kind of funny, actually, how everything happened. It started as a hobby. I knew personal training did well and they could make their own hours. And I did it because I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be into sports medicine. And I didn't have a financial backing, so I needed to make money. So it started as personal training. After working from 5 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night, still wasn't enough. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to open boot camp and do that between. So I would train my PT, go take classes, come back, train. Then between 6 p.m., I would teach classes at the park, and then I would go back and do my PT. So I kind of built, and it was just purely a hobby. I enjoyed helping people. I enjoyed being around people. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. It didn't feel like work, right?
Right.
But it hit my ultimate goal to build a bank account so I could pay for med school when the time came. And this was my junior year of undergrad. So started by doing that, was always into fitness, was always from high school playing sports to once I graduated school, my first job overseas, I went overseas to London, was working in the fitness industry. So fitness has always kind of found me, I say, instead of me finding it, it's always found me. So I started by personal training, started some boot camps in the park, where here in Vegas, it's very strategic when you have to have boot camps in the park. So it was 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. when it was a little bit cooler. So I did that all year long while doing personal training. At the same time, I went to school. Right around 2009, 2010, I started growing the boot camps. I got an opportunity to teach at the rec centers, the local rec centers. So I contracted all the rec centers, taught every single class there, had employees, started growing the rec center from kids fitness to step classes to abs to whatever fitness class I ran. They put me even in charge of the rec centers fitness facilities, so we ran that. So I had instructors. So it kind of started growing and growing and growing. And obviously, I became more of a manager. It wasn't really owner because I didn't own anything. I just had classes, more a manager than I instructed because it was too much for me to carry on my own. Around that time, I got really involved through my wife. We opened the dance studio, and so that's kind of how I started training dancers. And with her, we kind of started getting a little bit more involved with Miss Nevada. She did the pageant coaching, and I did the training. So we kind of created a team around that. Then around the same time, 2010, She started a nonprofit for children with special needs. Same time, I was like, you know what? I want to start training. I want to try help the most amount of people. And that's when I started realizing that it wasn't more of help. It was, I wanted to help the most amount of people. It didn't matter what type. I wanted, if you were law enforcement, I wanted to make sure you were the best law enforcement. If you were rehabbing, I wanted to make sure when you came back, you were the best at what you did. So it just started becoming very personal. Like I wanted to help the most amount of people. So that's right around the time I graduated with my bachelor. It was, you know, med school was coming. I was still doing my application, and I threw a bunch of my clients threw me a graduation party. I remember leaving that graduation party. I pull in my condo, park my car, and I look at all this. They thought it was going to be 1 or 2 more months left of boot camp, that I was going to be done, right? So I'm reading all these letters, and the first time in my life in a long time, I remember just being in tears. These letters were a sense of accomplishment, like I've truly accomplished something, like I've changed these people's life. Yes, to me, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go train them. They're my friend. It's great. But I truly impacted this, you know, some of these people have been with me for 4 years, and I truly changed their life. And, you know, you don't think of that. I'm just doing my job. I'm showing up. I'm training you. But until you see their story, and like people telling me, I was obese. You helped me get off all my medication. You did all this, because like, that wasn't, I just wanted to create exercise all around. And I read letters. I read it from the kids that I trained, from everyone, because, you know, they thought this was my last summer and this was goodbye. So they came to my graduation party and then wrote me all these letters. And I remember that summer, I was like, this is not a hobby. I love this. I do not want to do anything else. So I decided that I took that last tour to Pomona Health Science University. I went there it was just a college interview, but it was more a walk around, check campus. I drove back and I told myself, I'm not doing this. I'm taking all the money I saved and I'm going to open a facility and I'm going to help more people. So right around 2011, I was like, I'm going to put all my money, and I had a good amount that I saved from med school, and I'm going to look for a facility. So it took me about a year to look for a facility. And at the same time, there was a job opening for the Cirque du Soleil, and you know, I didn't want to spend all my money because I wasn't working that much, but I was looking for a facility. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be a strength and conditioning coach for the Cirque du Soleil. And I applied, I got the job, and at the time I started at Humanity. All the strength and conditioning coaches there at the time were all, there were only 4 of us at the time, and we were like specific shows. Right. And I was at Humanity, and then whenever another strength condition, another show would call off, I would cover their shift and stuff like that. So I started working there, and I fell in love with training athletes. That's something I fell in love with, and I just it fit in. It never felt like work. So at the same time, I found a location around that time, and the gym was growing, and I still was an employee at Cirque du Soleil. I did that together for about 5 years, and then I decided that to step away from Cirque du Soleil. The last thing I did before I stepped away was right when the Golden Knights came in. So we did, I was part of the volunteer strength coaches that did their training camp. So that was exciting. That was my last, I guess, goodbye assistant to the professional world. And before I would focus on my growing my business and press forward, we took over another location. We had 2 fitness locations at once. They both grew. We made one more into a physiotherapy rehab center. Then we branched off, and now we are just in one building.
Wow, amazing. Coach, obviously you're, probably about 2 years now, 2.5 years, somebody recommended to, try your place. I was doing boxing. I was going to, the Lifetime Fitness. and somebody said, why don't you try Veni Vidi Vici? And I was like, oh man, a typical CrossFit place. And I've been to some CrossFit places, right? Lift, slam weights, chug beers, and your place is not like that at all. It is such a dynamic place of, old, young, in shape,
melting pot, right? It's
melting pot. I think what you've built there, this is what I feel. This is why I go there. You built a community of fitness, and so I think that's so important. So, talk about that vision as you were designing that, though, because you do hold the CrossFit banner, but it's not the atypical CrossFit. So maybe you can talk about that vision and why you specifically went to that.
Yeah, so it's to me, just to cover kind of what you mentioned, it's never been a business of fitness. It's been a business of relationships, because you can only help the people you have relationships with. It's more than providing a service. Like, I can talk to you, JP, and I have a relationship with you. And I'm not giving you a prescription based on a service. I'm giving you a prescription based on a friendship and a relationships and needs that I feel like you need. And that's always been my mindset, no matter if in the professional, university level. You build a relationship with the person you're trying to impact or change. And if that's through strength and conditioning, I cannot train a professional athlete if I don't have a relationship with that professional. Obviously, a relationship doesn't mean go and get teased, whatever. It varies depending on the person, right? Me and you might have a different relationship. Me and someone else might have a different, but it's building a relationship with people. And that's how you truly have impact. And that's always been my approach. It's never been about fitness. Fitness is just a bonus. I build a relationship with you. I build a community of people that are equal-minded. Then it's easy to offer that service of improvement. We need to run this. We need to do this. We need to do this. I'm offering that because I learned about you. I know your goals. I know your limitations. That's my approach, if that answers your question.
No, it does, Coach. And there's a lot of young coaches that listen to this podcast in several different sports fields. It doesn't matter. But what you're telling them is, build a relationship with your client, with your athlete, understand who they are. And Lee and I talk about that all the time. We're trying to say, peel back the onion of that person, understand that. Because seriously, Coach, if you could do it by yourself, you just go by yourself and do it. But the reason people come to your facility is because of that. And you have this unique, you know who I am, what I've done before, how old I am. And from there you could say, hey, JB, tailor it this way. Yeah. It's funny. And I'll tell you this, Lee, my hip's been killing me. So when I come in right away, Coach,
you shouldn't have told me that. I'm going to use that against you for years. No,
but Coach use that. And even on the daily workout, he'll modify something for me. Just come up and say, hey, don't do this, do this. And I think that's really important. So the takeaway I have is, if you're a young coach, listen to this, right? Learn who your people are. I love it.
I'm going to go off our rundown a little bit here, JB, because I think there's a huge message here. And Boris, I would love to dive into this with you, right? We talk about in the intro, champions and trailblazers, and what you've championed, in my opinion, is you knew what your why was right away. And you pursued that. It wasn't about building the biggest fitness center. It wasn't about the branding and just the money. We all need money. I always find it funny when people talk, it's not just about the money. No, it's not. You do need money to survive, though. That's not, you don't have to hide that aspect of it, right? But you knew your why. You knew exactly what it was you wanted to do, which was help people. And with that as a driving force, with that as the championship thing for you, look what you've built. The other thing, and I have to bring this up for our audience. You said this earlier. What time were you waking up and working and going to bed? What was that day like for you in the beginning?
So it's still like that.
Yeah.
It just happened, right? So I'm up teaching or coaching, ready to go, full energy at 5 a.m.
5 a.m. I love it. All right. You're willing to put the time in. You hear the highest successful people, and you're one of them. Dwayne Johnson, all of them, Be the hardest worker in the room. You hear this all the time. It is not enough to put in 2 hours a day and expect yourself to succeed with your dream. One of the biggest problems I find right now with younger coaches, right? Younger athletes, they want it all, but they're not willing to understand what it takes to get it all. All right. You have to know your why. This man wanted to help people. You have to be willing to put in the time. And the third thing that I didn't say yet, and this is, I think, the most amazing thing, is you had the guts to change your mind and really kind of reintroduce yourself. You said, I wanted to be a doctor. I'm married to a doctor. I understand that journey. Right at that pinnacle point of this is where I'm going to med school, you make a decision to completely change your trajectory while keeping your why the main focus. So important, because so many people make the wrong choice there. No, I said, I have to do this. I have to do this, which is never the way it is. Right. Or I'm doing it because my father wants me to do it. Right. You made a choice based on your why, which was, I want to help people. You found a niche, and money was involved, but not the primary driving force. And I'm looking at you, for those of you listening, with a wall behind you with your business name on it that looks awesome. For those of you listening, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. You have to know that, because I just can't stand it. But Boris, again, I'll shut up in a minute. I just can't stand it when people say to me, well, I was promised that I could do whatever I want. And that was a lie. It's not a damn lie. You just got to put the work in and the time in. And this country and many others affords you the right to do that. And it's a gift. I'm done standing on my soapbox now. Boris, back to you.
Coach, can you, the other thing is that I think you've expanded into this. I love the fact, and again, your gym is such a melting pot. You do see the, I want to say pro CrossFitters. You do have a few of those that go around. Obviously you have the Cirque folks, the professional yoga people, and then you have hacks like me. But I think it's also important how you've, I see this teen fitness class you have is extremely popular. And one of the things that Lee and I always talk about with younger athletes or younger people is, come on, stay fit, get off the computer, get off the screen. Can you dive into that and why you kind of carved that out? I know you have young kids, but you carved that piece out.
So originally it didn't start as I wanted them to be better athletes. It wasn't that. I wanted them to have a sense of, if their parents were working out, they would work out, and the drive home, they could talk about health and fitness and how you work out. And it was something that would bring the family together. That's why it started. It started that I used to offer fitness classes at the same time, kids fitness at the same time as the grown-ups classes. So they would go in to different rooms. Obviously, we don't do that because the location's a little bit different. But our first location was 2 classes going on at the exact same time, where parents would drop off their kid. It wasn't daycare, it was kids fitness, and then their fitness class. And then when they would leave, they might go. I don't know if it would happen, but it was for them to share. Hey, how was your workout? How was this? Dad, I did this. I did this, man. I ran this. I lifted this much weight. And it was a way to use health and fitness as a talking point. And that was why we created it. It wasn't truly to make kids healthier. Yes, we knew that was going to happen. We knew that was going to create that, but it was to create what are we doing today? Oh, I'm going with my family to the gym. How many people I know growing up, that was something we did. Like, it wasn't like, oh, what are you doing at 6 o'clock? Oh, me and my family are going to the gym. It's special. It's amazing. Like, it gives me goosebumps just to think about it, because it's great. Like, that's what it should be. What are you guys doing tonight? Oh, we're all going to work out together. Like, and we create a community that's what they do, right?
No, and I think it's great. And I think the part of that is that, you're integrating it into it, in these developmental years, and it's like anything. If you start it young, you use it as a positive habit, you'll take it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I think that's the importance of it.
I totally
Go ahead, Lee.
No, I just totally agree with that, JB. I mean, it's like most things, like the foundations for anything in life start in your childhood. So if you have a good foundation of physical fitness and mental fitness, for that matter, you're gonna have, I'm not gonna say an easy road, but you're gonna have some tools there that other people don't have. Actually, it segues perfectly into my next question, JB, which is, Boris, we have a problem with physical fitness in this country. Heart disease is the #1 killer. We have too many fast food restaurants and access to too many bad things. So my question to you is this: we have a lot of young coaches that listen to this show. What is your advice to them to kind of conquer this with maybe the people that they work with? And this can be in a sports environment, it can be in a physical training environment, but we've all had a kid or more than one kid or a player that just doesn't take care of themselves in the best way. So what is your advice to us and to them on how to approach really anybody in the realm, but people when it comes to making fitness a priority?
Well, it's the biggest thing. It starts with like building obviously a relationship with someone and being able to talk to them, because like I can, if you tell me, for example, Boris, I want to lose weight. Boris, I want to get healthier. In most cases, that looks like that is a superficial answer. What the instructor or coach or whoever needs to find out is, Lee, how much weight do you want to lose? Why is that important to you?
Right.
What would that impact? You losing, let's say, 12 pounds. Why is 12 pounds? Why is that number important to you? Have you been there before? Who else does it affect, Lee? Does 12 pounds affect your wife? Does it affect your kids if you have kids? As you know, but like basically digging deep on the why, and if I can give you solution why I can help you, or you being at this vision where you want to be and how your life would be different, then you will have people buying in more often.
Right.
But the problem, if we keep it just superficial, lose weight, yeah, I can help you. I'm offering a service. So it's the person across the street. But if I dig deep and really get to know the person that you are and your limitation, you work this many hours, you're so passionate about your station, your podcast, that at the end of the day, you want to just spend time with your wife. So right. It's easy to put. So when you are so used to putting yourself on the side, so you dig deep and start finding, and that's how you find solution. Well, maybe doing classes is not for you because you need more accountability. Maybe you need more one-on-one coaching. Maybe you need this, and that's how you truly find solution for this. Right. So just to answer, like, how do you find? You try to kind of find out what kind of service you can provide, if you can even provide that service.
Right,
if you can prescribe where they can get that service, and that's how you build relations. Because I would tell JB, if I cannot provide that service, I would direct JB where he can get that service. Because at the end of the day, JB is not going to leave me because he's still finding that solution. He might have to find it somewhere or get maybe massage or whatever. Like, let's say if he has an injury, whatever. But in the end of the day, I'm taking care of the full package and not just losing weight or exercise.
Right. I said you might not be working in a hospital, man, but you are a doctor. The way you talk, I love that about you. Just to answer your question, I do have 2 kids. I love them very much. They're 8 and 5.
What's the age?
8 and 5. My son's 8. My daughter is 5. And
I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, so I can kind of.
We're in the same world right now. I don't have my hair anymore, so God bless you for having yours. But I will tell you this: that going back to what you said, it comes back to finding your why, and it's not surprising to me that that's the approach you took because you knew your own why, and you're kind of applying that philosophy. And JB, we've talked about this on the show before with coaches. And Boris, I'll tell you this, I'm amazed. And I really mean that. I'm amazed at times. I'll go to a team, I'll work with a team, and I'll say to the coach, do you know how every one of your players is motivated? Or do your coaching staff know how their players are motivated? Do you know why they're here? I never get a yes to that answer. It's all, and what I love about what you said, it's like, you're right. Oh, I'm just here to lose weight. Well, I'm just here to win the games. But if you know why your players are playing the sport, right? There's a deeper connection there. As you said, a relationship. And when you establish that with your athletes, my goodness, the results start to show up, even if it's not so much on the scoreboard.
But like, you go back, like, at least me growing up, those athletes that improved or went to the next level.
Right.
If you find out, they always had a relationship with the coach.
Right.
Because the coach knew how to get the best out of that athlete. Obviously, in a team where there's 53, it's hard. But if you notice, like, whatever position it was elevated. Obviously, as people, we're attracted by people that are a little bit more talented. So if talent pops out, I'm more eager to build a relationship with that person but that's just in every aspect, not just fitness. Like if someone pops up and he's a great athlete or comes in the gym and is a superstar, I'm gravitated to that person. That's just human nature, right? But I'm not saying don't do that, but you have to remember there's other people that maybe are not so blossom right away. You can get them there.
Right. Well, it's habitual too, right? Like, by the way, I'll note, JB is one of those people that you're talking about, right? That's exactly what he does with pro athletes, but it's habitual. We talk about competitiveness, right, JB, and how pro athletes or the top performers are competitive all the time. They don't really turn it off when they're away from the team. I think, Boris, what you're talking about is the same thing. Having the compassion, having the empathy, having that belief system of I want to build a relationship, in the situations where they warrant them. It's an all the time thing. You're not picking and choosing, this person that walked in gets to have that relationship. This person doesn't. Now, obviously, it's a two-way street, right? You have to open yourself up to it as well, but it's an all the time thing with your demeanor and your approach. I just love that, right? I love it. We don't have enough of this really in this country, right? In sports in general, but you'll find success if you do it. I've never heard, and JB, you can tell me if you have, I've never heard a story of a coach or a coaching staff that did this, finding the why, building the relationships, and really thought that they failed. I don't know that exists, but I know plenty that have the old school mentality of, guts to the wall, do what I say, hammer it in, old school. And I've seen plenty of them that have lost. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, JB, over to you.
No, and I applaud the coaches that, the talented players, are always going to rise to the case, right? And I applaud the coaches that, that look in the middle and say, you know what, I'm going to help this person or this person, get to that level. I think that's so important what you do. Coach, I just want to change gears here because I know it's very, very important to you. I see you do it. You do it with me. You do it with other people. But let's talk about, the mental fitness piece of physical fitness. And I watch how you you're a great observer. I watch how you do it. You're a great observer. And Ty's running the gym or somebody else, and you're just walking around and you're taking the temperature of everybody and you're seeing things. And right away, you're right on. You're like, hey, you okay today? What's going on? But I think we miss that today. Back in our days, Coach, we grew up, it was like suck it up and drive on, no complaining, cowboy up. But now mental fitness is, it's a real thing. We talk about that. We see it in sports, athletes breaking down, coaches breaking down, people breaking down, suicides. So talk about the importance there of that mental fitness and why it's important to you and doing it in your shop.
So I think mental fitness, it's really important. The reason it's so important is because you can only push someone if they're ready, receptive, ready to get pushed. So I can sit here and tell you, run this, do this, whatever that is, and set my own expectations for what needs to get done. But the person, let's say Lee and JB, you guys are not ready for it. Mentally, you're not ready. You're not going to get the result out of it. You're not going to. But if I can find out where you're at mentally that moment, if maybe you're dealing with something mentally, I can get you maybe to check back in or maybe meet you halfway. So now I can still get the maximum out of you depending on where you're at. So mental games are important. Obviously, you got to realize where they are at that time. Not everyone is going to be 100% every single day, as much as you want. You got to be able to get that 100% of whatever they are mentally that day. That's just my approach. Instead of just, you have to be 100%, it's easier said than done. So I cannot have everyone be like, guys, you're working out, you're paying to work out, you should all be 100%. If not, you're not going to get results. That's not the thing. Instead of being like, where are we at today? Long weekend, okay, set that as an expectation. Been working a lot, been thinking about different things, going to something personal that maybe I'm not ready to tell, but I'm here. So that's great. Let's try to meet you where your mental game is today. Maybe I can help get it a little bit better, but if I can't, I'll stop right there and I'll get everything out of I can from you and your mental game that day.
Yeah. Lee, I just want to tell a little story. I was on the bike one day and coach was standing right in front of me and I didn't even see him because my mind was somewhere else. And he looked at me and said, "Hey, you know what? Bring your mind here right now." And I wrote that, check back in, because you're so good at getting people to check back in. And I was just like riding the bike and he's like,
sometimes that's all you need, right?
Yeah. Like, and I was like, oh yeah. He's like, check back in. And
That's a great point.
And it's so important to do that because I think, you know, coach, there's so many distractors now today. You know, we obviously, you know, the black mirror, you know, there's Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff even we're doing today. But we got to find that time when it comes time to do that task, to check into that task. And I think it's important.
The most important thing, I think, is to be present, right? And I say that to my kids, I say it to my coaches, and I say it to myself as well, and to be present, right? And we are all for it sometimes. Sometimes I'm not present, just to remind to be present in what you're doing. If you're eating, be present in eating and eat. If you're talking to someone, be present and talk to them. If you're working out, and be present in that space. Because a lot of times I think we're so caught up on doing so much that we forget that moment that we're actually present. That's, and you know, when I used to kind of train little league soccer, I used to tell them, all the kids was like, you're here, you're not playing with your friend, you're not playing video game, you're here. We're here for 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Let's be present. Let's be present in kicking the ball. Let's be present running. Let's be present in the moment that we're in. Let's build an experience right now. And that's all you can do.
I preach present moment awareness.
Yes, you do.
And it's something else. I said, we talked about this earlier. You have to practice it. It's not something that just comes supernaturally because we're human. And, you know, we all have internal dialogue. We all hear voices in our head. It doesn't make you crazy. That's just natural, right? And I say it all the time, like, you have to practice present moment awareness. I try and go for a walk every morning, even it's cold over here in Philadelphia. I was out there this morning, and this is like the results of like practicing is, it took me a minute for me to hear the birds chirping outside. And it took me a minute because my mind was someplace else. But I've been practicing this so much that I was able to trigger of, you know, I'm not even hearing them. I'm not even hearing the birds. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing right now. I try and practice that all the time. The present moment is the only reality that exists. The past has happened. The future hasn't happened yet. If you get lost in those places, you're not living. I do say, like, because I'm not a monk, you reflect on the past, you look to the future, but don't get lost in those places because it's not real. And JB, it happens to me, like it happened to you on the bike. You can be so physically thinking about something. And you said this, coach, you said it. Didn't take much, just had to snap you out of it, right? So the first step is just that acknowledgement of consciousness of, wow, I got lost there in my head for a minute. I always say the second step is, you're not the voices in your head. The things that you hear yourself saying, that's not really you. That's conditioned thinking. That's years and years of things that you've been taught. You can make a change whenever you feel like it with that. If I'm not going to tell myself these negative messages, right? Or even there's an adverse to this. This is way too excited. I'm way too excited. I'm going to make a bad decision because I'm too excited right now. So I love that you bring up present moment awareness, coach, because I think too many human beings on this planet are living their lives unconscious. And I think people legit are born and die having never even understood the concept of being present, right? And that's part of my mission, is to spread that, you know? So I love that you brought that up.
Coach, couple tips here for young coaches, young athletes. Couple tips, you know, the Boris words of wisdom. What are you telling these folks?
Enjoy the ride. Okay. Love it, because one day might not be there, or it might be different. So you know, I walk in every day and I have a smile. I count my blessing every single day. because you get to do something that it's not easy for a lot of people. You get to impact, in good or bad. You get to change that person's life by coaching, training, whatever. If you're whatever way you're doing it, but you're impacting that person's life, and I think can't take it for granted. So I think that's the biggest thing. Don't take it for granted and enjoy the ride, because never know.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. That part about enjoying the journey. I even look at, I was talking to a military friend of my military career. There was a part in my military career I wasn't enjoying the journey. You know, I was just, as you're continuing to grind it out, which you want to grind, but you got to enjoy the grind. And I think that's so important too. That's great words of wisdom. Back to you, Lee.
Well, I'll just say this too, because I had a couple more questions. You know, you said this earlier, Coach, that, you know, you're a really upbeat person. You're really excited to talk to. I love that. But, you know, there's mornings I wake up, and I just went through a period like this in my life where, you know, for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, which is like an eternity to me, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling great mentally. I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I stayed kind of consistent with the things that I do. And I'm old enough now to have the understanding of like, hey man, you'll get through this, but continually to be consistent with the things that you do, right? Don't stray off and start spiraling. So my question to you is, we talked about mental fitness, but I want to talk about, you know, dealing with adversity real quick, right? So I love that you love your job, but and maybe this doesn't happen, but I'm guessing there's mornings, maybe you don't want to go to work once in a while, right? Maybe you want to stay home. How do you deal with those types of situations and kind of keep yourself on track?
So, yeah, we all do. So I wake up some days and I'm like, what am I doing? And I just, I self-talk a lot. So I self-talk to myself, like, you know, just, well, if you miss today, tomorrow is going to be even harder. That's first thing I said. Because for me, as a business owner, tomorrow I have to catch up all the stuff that I have to do. Me sleeping in an hour, then that means my appointments, whatever, get pushed over. So everything, to me, the self-talk, everything has a consequence, right? It's not the end of the world consequence, but everything has an effect. So if I don't do this call, if I don't take this, everything has a consequence. Not everything's the end of the world. Like, I don't want to, like, you know, but it's a decision. So I always self-talk, and always, before I want to press snooze, I always think, is it worth the final thing? Like, if I don't show up today, what's going to be the final result?
Right.
And that's kind of how I do my self-talk in those days that I want. So some days I do snooze in. I do, because the consequence is not, maybe today all I did was one meeting that I could schedule for tomorrow. It's not the end of it. It doesn't affect anything, right? So that's kind of how I do a lot of self-talk, just to answer your question. How do I get through it? Just kind of analyze it. Is it worth it or is it not worth it?
Well, and how did you train yourself to have those types of messages? And the reason I ask this is this: like, look, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. But look, there are people with insanely negative thoughts in their head, right? And again, I'm not a doctor, but I always say that you have to kind of the first step is to acknowledge that you're having these thoughts and understanding that, right? And then maybe seeking out how to change them. But how did you train yourself to have that type of dialogue?
I think it's probably because I am a very positive person. I am super positive about everything. And I think it's because, you know, growing up, my life has been always a little roller coaster personal life. You know, I lost my mother at a very young age. I was raised by my brother. My brother got really sick and passed away. Like, you know, so I always count my blessing. Like, when things like that happen, instead of shutting everything down, I'm like, well, I still have 2 beautiful girls in my life. I still have a great business. My mom passed away and I was 14 years old, but I was blessed that my brother rolled his sleeves up at 16 years old and became my legal guy again. So I've always told myself, like, through all something happening, you know, my dad had a heart attack, but guess what? He's here now, and we never had a relation before. I'm going to make sure that the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever he lives, I'm going to have the best relationship with this man. So I've always tried to see it on the other side, and always, you know, when my business wasn't doing good, I was like, you know what? At least, you know, my wife's business is doing good. So, you know, the blessing come, my business will catch up. I didn't say, hey, I'm getting up. I've always counted there's always other things. I've always been able to see the positive. So that's kind of how I do my self-talk, is because, yeah, you could have a shit, you could be tired, you could be sick, but there's other things that could go wrong.
No, and that's exactly it. Counting your blessings and piling them up. You know, it's just like you know, in the military, when we were attacking the enemy, we always wanted to have 3-to-1 odds. It's the same thing. You need 3 positives. If you have something negative, you got to just continue to count those positives. I tell clients all the time, if you wake up and you slept like crap, your drive to work sucks, your breakfast sucks, your work's going to suck, right? So you have to continue, you have to find something and continue to just build on small things that are positive. Lee, I love the fact you went out and walked and you're like, listen, let me hear the birds.
Right. Something.
You had a chance to be outside. I mean, this COVID, it's probably killing more people than it should, because we are locking people in, right? We're not giving people the experience. Go ahead, Coach.
I feel like not feeling sorry for yourself too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of times we get in this place that we're like, oh, man, I'm having such a bad day. Oh, this is going bad financial. This is my why, or whatever. We start feeling sorry for yourself. And, you know, and growing up, my dad used to always have this saying: you wanted the bicycle, you got to ride it. So we have actions on what we choose. Now we got to be able to live up to those concepts. My dad used to always say, you know, you wanted this bicycle, now you got to ride it. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And so that's being able to not feel bad for yourself, and being able to, if you have a bad day, bounce back up. Like JB, you said, you know, always have more positive than those negative, being able to pile them back up, because at the end of the day, it's not one scenario that affects you, it's your ultimate journey that affects you.
Exactly.
You know, I got to jump on this too, because 2 things here, right? And I wrote this down because there's 2 sides to this. You know, JB, another thing I do, like people, we say on the show all the time, so important to have faith. However that manifests itself, it can be religion, it can be something else, but it's important to have some form of faith. And we talked about gratitude here. You know, what I find is in my hardest moments, I try and do this every night before I go to bed, but I always do this when I'm having real struggles. And this is like my prayer, right? I say, thank you for my life. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my children. Thank you for bringing hockey into my life. Thank you for the gifts I've been given. I just really start saying thank you to whatever for the things that I have. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my friends. And it brings me back to a centered place of like, you know, one day my parents won't be here, you know, like, as you said, Coach, you know, you weren't blessed with that with your mother, but it gave you strength in some way. You know, the other thing too is this, and this is a really important thing to tap on. And we talk about consciousness and present moment awareness. If you identify through misery, if you identify through the bad things that are happening to you, it can be very dangerous. And what ends up happening is people that are happy, or people that try and help you, or people that bring good vibes become a threat to your misery and your identity. And you know what you do? You feel like it's an attack and you push them away. And it's because you may be unconscious to the fact that your misery is your identifier, right? You know, my wife, Coach, you life has given you hands. You have every reason that if you wanted to be miserable and upset, you could be. And I don't think anyone would blame you with what you just told us. My wife grew up in extreme poverty. No one would look at her if she was miserable and say, wow, she really did have a tough life. But diamonds are made under pressure. And what's funny is the top performers I meet have had the hardest lives. It's not the other way around. In fact, I've met a lot of miserable people that have had everything. So I just, it's perspective, right? I was blessed. I had a great family environment. I didn't want for anything, right? I was really blessed. All right. But the top people I know, JB, obviously with your military experience and the things you had to go through, I'm always amazed by this diamonds are made under pressure kind of mentality and how that evolved in the humans. Right. And again, Coach, the hand you were dealt, you have every right to be upset, but you just refuse to take that on. And you've decided that you're not going to live that way. You've made this mentality in your head and you move forward. But if you're listening to this show and this brings the consciousness to, if you're identifying through misery, pain, anguish, suffering. You're not going to even allow people from the other side of that into your life because it threatens that identity. You have to open your mind up a bit. Anyway, I'm not trying to, again, monologuing a lot today, but Coach, do you have anything to say on that?
No. And it's true. Like misery likes company.
Yeah.
Misery attracts misery. But I always say positivity is contagious as well. You know what I mean? Like it can go both ways. If you are positive, and you don't have to be this shine of rainbow, but if you have an outlook, a positive, that will, there's a lot of books out there that I kind of started reading, like about, just changing your mindset, just being positive, and how that manifests and attracts other positivity. And I truly believe it, because when you are in that state of mind, you start talking to the same minded people you're around. That opens other opportunities, that opens other doors. And now from you just thinking in a different mindset, but when you think positive, things tend to go wrong, and it constantly go wrong. Right.
It's a choice. And I will say this, there are some environments where it's a much harder choice.
Yes.
All right. I will totally say that I have an understanding of that. If you're growing up in poverty, or you're growing up in a tough area, or maybe even under a different government like type of situation, it's choice, but it might be insanely hard and not realistic. Right. But it is something you can choose to do. And I'm going to say this again, Coach, I think the most positive people I've ever met from a performance standpoint, from an achievement standpoint, have had it the hardest. Again, my wife, if I may just gush from it, grew up in extreme poverty with a somewhat broken family. Her house was condemned, and she's a doctor because she wanted to help people, and she just refused to let anybody get in her way from doing that. And she's one of the most delightful people you'll ever meet. And she's my hero. She amazes me. She has no reason to be like that, and she is. And I use that as an anchor all the time of like, man, whatever's happening to me today, it's just not that bad when you compare it. And the idea that we're also all in this together, right? I do want to bring that up because like nobody gets out of this life alone. All right. You're going to meet other people. You're going to be with other people, introvert, extrovert. We need each other. Like there's no road to success or even happiness that's just you. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that's it. I tell the story when I was in the military. The one thing I never did, Coach, is allow soldiers to complain. Right. And if they complain, I'm like, oh, you're complaining, go run 5 miles. Right. So they come back. I'm like, all right, they're not complaining anymore because that just breeds on it. Let's go. Let's find a way. Look at the positivity. Look at the positive. You're going to eat today? Yeah, you're going to eat today. All right. It's not so bad. Let's go. I think that's so important, Coach. And studies have shown, the most resilient people are resilient for others in their times of struggle. And in your times of struggle, you were resilient for others. And that builds on your own resilience instead of shrinking back and just protecting yourself. And you see it with there's natural disasters, floods, tornadoes. People have just lost the house. What are they doing? They're coming out to help the lady that lived next door. Right. So that's part of that. And that's how you build resilience. Thank you for all that.
See, and because you're right, like some people don't lead going to what you said. Some people have it tougher. Like it just, as much as you, sometimes we get caught up as individuals that we have it so bad. There's other people that have it worse. Like you think third world countries, people that have nothing. Like if what happened to me, to a person that had no one, like maybe they didn't have a sibling or whatever, how would they be able to get out? Or maybe grew up in a place where there is no opportunities. The opportunities are nowhere, even if they want it. You know what I mean? So definitely be blessed and and count your fortune, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
We all have one. So Boris, last question, because I know we got to let you go.
Yeah.
At some point we have to end the interview. These things could go on forever. As we said at the top, look, you're an Italian American. That comes with different family patterns, different upbringing in some cases. As you said, you had a very unique upbringing. I always lived under the impression and understanding that, people born in this country don't really fully appreciate America probably to its full extent. I think it's people who immigrate here, people from other countries who come to live here, come to work here, have a deeper understanding of what we're afforded here. So I just wanted to ask, from your background, coming from another place, if that affected you at all, or how those patterns, affected your life.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely did affect my life in the sense that, there's a lot more opportunities in the United States than anywhere else. And, I've been fortunate to live in different continents in the world. I grew up in Italy, where opportunities are not as glamorous people see it in a postcard. Like, it's not.
Right.
I mean, it's a beautiful country to visit, but to live is not the same. There's not the same opportunities you find here. I lived in Africa for a while, and even less opportunity.
Right.
So we definitely are very blessed here. There's, if you're willing to put the work and put yourself out there, there's definitely opportunities here, and like I said, life is about relationships, and here, more relationships you have, you build opportunity, that's you able to grow.
Right. No, I love it. And I appreciate you saying that. And like I said, my advice to young people is always go live in another country for an extended period of time. If you can, you'll see the differences. And look, there's some benefits too to that, obviously. But like you said, yeah, look, Rome, you see it on TV, you see it on a postcard. It's a different way of life there, as is other parts of Europe and Africa and Asia and anywhere. Right. So it's all perspective. And the more you can get from that, and if you can't travel those countries, talk to somebody from one of those countries, right?
Absolutely.
Learn as much as you can. We do have drawbacks here, but there's a lot of benefits. And if you're willing to take a look into that and educate and share experiences, which is part of the human experience, your life will be better for it. That's what I'll say. Coach, you're awesome. This was an awesome interview.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. It was fun.
Thank you,
it was
Coach.
a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it goes both ways. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of Win Championship Trades for Life, which is powered by Pivotal Moments Media. Make sure you check out pivotalmomentsmedia.com for more inspirational, entertaining, and educational content. For Boris Sapone and JB Spears, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks again for watching. Take a look out for all of our episodes, wherever podcasts can be heard. See you next time on Win.
Thank you, guys.